Elden Ring DLC has been out for a while now, and with it came a bunch of new weapons. And in my opinion, most of them were pretty good, but of course, even From Software misses sometimes. And in terms of the DLC, one of those misses are the Smithscript weapons, which most players think are pretty lackluster, and rightfully so. For weapons that are supposed to be used at range, they surprisingly have very little range. Like, I would be better off just using a thrusting sword at this point. But then I thought to myself, were these weapons really that bad, or were people just judging them too harshly? That's why I decided to attempt beating the DLC with only Smithscript Daggers, to see if they actually are as bad as people say they are, or if they're secretly the most overpowered weapons in the entire DLC. Now, when I did this, I pretty much started from scratch, which meant I had to go all the way back up to the DLC again. So after watching some tutorials on YouTube, I arranged a method that even a dumbass like myself could follow, that'll let me get strong enough for the DLC super early on. I introduced the Fighting Margit with a +9 weapon plan. I was at the final stretch. All I had to do now was complete Vara's questline and beat Moog. And I was doing so much damage with my weapon that even Moog didn't stand a chance. I was even able to no damage him, which honestly isn't that surprising. Just look how much damage this did. Anyways, this now meant I had access to the DLC, but before I got into it, I needed to get my talismans first. And the first one that I got was the Dancer's Charm, because I'm pretty much going to be naked for this whole playthrough anyways, so might as well convert that into more damage. After that, I got Millicent's Prosthesis and the Warrior Jaw Shard, which I definitely did not do any questionable stuff for, which leaves me to my final talisman. And you can't use a smithing weapon without the smithing talisman itself. And since you can only get this talisman in the DLC, this meant it was finally time to— I've been waiting for this very moment. I finally get to touch Mikola's hand. I mean, access the Shadow Realm. Anyways, touching someone who's several millions years old, who looks like a little kid aside, I was now finally able to get the weapon of my dreams. And getting it was pretty easy. The hard part was upgrading it all the way to +25. After some back and forth, however, I was able to get all of the smithing stones, which meant it was finally time for my first— oh crap, I almost forgot the one Ash of War that was going to make or break this playthrough. The Scatter Shot. This Ash of War alone is what's going to turn this pretty underpowered weapon into something that's actually viable, if it decides to work properly, because sometimes even the Scatter Shot just sucks. It's all good though, because now I'm finally ready for my first boss. I just needed to get past the staircase, which can be kinda tough because the enemy here thinks he's from Sekiro and just won't stop jumping around. Well, I mean, that settles that guy, I guess. I'll admit, I wasn't expecting that to one-shot me. Being completely honest though, I don't think this is gonna be that hard. I just need to lock in, and if I keep this up, we should be good. Okay, how did this happen? I went from reaching his second phase to I just got in and I'm already dead. And the thing is, it's not even the weapon's fault. I think the weapon's doing pretty good damage. I'm just dodging like an absolute goober. Like, come on man, you fought this guy before. Okay, that wasn't bad, and the weapons did pretty good too. Okay, sometimes it didn't do the damage that I wanted it to, but for the most part, I think it was pretty consistent. And if the Ash of War didn't work, you could always just use the light attacks. They weren't as good, but they're still pretty reliable, especially if you get the bleed off. Anyways, for the score, against the Divine Lion, the Smithscript Daggers get an 8 out of 10. Well, that's one boss down. I wonder who's next. Oh yeah, it's her. This and the final boss were the two bosses I was the most worried about, especially if you consider what happened the last time I fought her. Let's just say it took way more than just a couple attempts. This time, however, I was determined to beat her as fast as I could, but in order to do that, I needed to, you know, reach her first. So I ran past these dogs without harming them, of course, because come on, who would harm the dogs in Elden Ring? Then I fought the castle guards, which I'll admit did not go as I planned. So yeah, I just did this instead. But eventually, I made it to the boss room. And remember when I said I was worried about Valana? Well, my judgment was right, because this boss took me a while. And again, I hate to admit it, but just like the Divine Lion, it wasn't even the weapon's fault. I just for some reason forgot how to dodge all of her easiest moves. Like really? The Phalanx? What's next? You gonna get hit by the moon attack? Of course you would jump too early. Man, at this point I really needed to step up my game. Not bad. Aside from my previous attempts, yeah, we don't need to talk about those. The fight was actually pretty decent. And as for the weapons, the daggers did pretty good damage and they bled pretty often too. The only gripe I have are the light attacks. I mean, I guess they work. I wouldn't really recommend relying on them though. However, for an overall score, I would give the daggers a 6 out of 10. It does feel good beating Valana though, because this meant I could now finally fight my favorite DLC boss. No, not him. Oh, get him off the screen. Yeah, I was talking about Mesmer. But of course, every good boss has to have their own legacy dungeon. Good thing the Shadow Keep wasn't that bad, and I even managed to do a couple of things while I was here. First, I got a new helmet. Yeah, this one really makes you feel like you're 1 meter tall. And then on my way to Mesmer's place, I also bullied the crap out of these Fire Knights. Well, the ones who don't have swords at least, because apparently the ones who do can just block your attacks. Anyways, I finally made it. I was done with the Shadow. Oh yeah, I forgot about him. Like, I know you can just run past this guy, but like, I was on my 5th attempt on him. Like, I swear, this guy took me longer than Mesmer. Can you really blame me though? At this point, even the environment is against me. But after the wall was out of the way, this guy was honestly lightweight. I didn't even break a sweat.
Mother, wouldst thou truly lordship sanction in one so bereft of love?
Dang, that was actually pretty close to a no-hit one. If only I wasn't so greedy in the first phase. And if you're wondering if this was my first attempt, it wasn't. I died a couple times before this. But hey, at least the weapons performed. First off, the damage was pretty solid. It didn't do as much as it did to Alana, but hey, 850? That's not bad. And on top of that, you also get the blood loss damage, which, let's be real here, will always be good. Now combine that with the massive openings that he gives you after each attack, and you've got yourself a recipe for a pretty fun boss fight, which is why I'll be giving Mesmer a 9 out of 10. But having defeated Mesmer, this meant I could now reach my next location. Okay, I'm not going there yet. First, I needed to take a detour to a place that's way worse. Now, you might be thinking, what's so bad about this place? Well, for one, I didn't boot up Elden Ring to get sniped on by these guys. And of course, your Beyblade looking ass cousin wants to help you now. Like, I swear this entire enemy type is a joke. Hey man, at least the boss at the end is pretty fun, even though he kinda just looks like Orphan of Kos on crack. You know what? Never mind. Looking back at Orphan of Kos, he honestly looks more cracked out. Anyways, against the Putrescent Knight, the daggers did pretty good, a 7 out of 10. Now you might be thinking, are we actually gonna go to Omina now? Well, normally that's what I would do, but for some reason, I decided to go for the Sunflower first, and just saying, that was a massive mistake. Yeah, I wasn't gonna fight this thing, man. So I just fought Commander Garrus instead, and it was surprisingly way more enjoyable, 8 out of 10. The Albanoic behind him though, 1 out of 10, and the only reason why she gets a point is because she gives me pants. However, this meant I was finally done with the side bosses, which means I could now finally fight Wilmina. Okay, hear me out for a second. You might be thinking, where's the part where you actually kill her? Well, the thing is, the PlayStation screen capture kinda messed up, which means the only proof that I do have of beating her is the remembrance, and also the fact that I have blood all over my body. However, I am still gonna give Wilmina a score, and normally it would be an 8 out of 10, but because of the screen capture not working, and the fact that she gets no cutscene, not even a single dialogue, I'm sorry, but I'm cutting it down to a 5 out of 10. Hey, I wasn't expecting Wilmina to get a worse score than Valana, but here we are, I guess. Putting all of that aside though, the good news is that I'm able to access any Ilum now. The bad news, I need to go through any Ilum now, which sucks because the place has the most goofy enemies known to man. Like, come on, why is Queso here? Nah, I'm playing. These guys are fine. These guys on the other hand, like, who designed them to spam this much? Like, I tried running past them, but they still end up stunlocking you anyways. Alright, for this guy, it was more of a skill issue than anything else, but come on. It was just too annoying not to show. Yeah, best believe, I ran past every enemy after this. Unfortunately for me, however, there was no more running to be done, because the next 2 bosses are mandatory. And of course, it starts off with Lida, they're all simping. And this fight normally gets kinda messy. However, with the stuff that I've done up to this point, I was able to turn this fight from a 4v1 into a 2v4, which means no Hornsent, no Freya, no more. Just good old Lida and Dan. And let me just say, this Dan guy still managed to beat my butt. Like, this guy is able to pull out a whole ass Bruce Lee combo, even though he has a hat so big, it covers his entire eyesight. So I decided the best course of action was to wait for Unspark and Teolier. And when they did come around, I mean, at this point, who even needs buttons anymore? Honestly, best fight in the whole DLC, 10 out of 10. You know who isn't gonna be a 10 out of 10 though? Yeah, Wodan isn't making it past 5 out of 10. However, I will admit, I was feeling kinda confident. I fought this guy a couple times before, and honestly, it's been getting better and better. Don't get me wrong, in my last playthrough, it still took me a couple hours, but I thought I was gonna be able to at least beat him even faster this time. And honestly, I probably could've, if Wodan wasn't just straight up broken. Like, I don't know if From Software changed how this boss works, but in all of the previous playthroughs that I've played in, every time he does this move, he would always follow up with something that I can punish him on. But for some reason, on this playthrough, he just stands there not knowing what to do next, and then out of nowhere, yeah, he does the move that's harder to dodge than the waterfowl dance. I even tried restarting the game and that still didn't work, and then I thought maybe in his second phase it'll fix itself. Well, boy, do I hate to break the news. Yeah, I don't think this is gonna be as easy as I thought it was. Finally, I was done with this incest-ass boss. And you know what? Instead of talking about this guy, I'll just talk about the daggers more. Because to be completely honest, this boss stinks. The daggers, on the other hand, did better than I expected. Granted, they do get carried by the Ash of War, because without it, I don't think it's worth using, honestly. That's why, for an overall score, I would personally give the daggers, Ash of War included, a solid 7 out of 10. Without the Ash of War, however, it's borderline 2 out of 10. Not worth using unless you're trying to challenge yourself or you're just masochistic.